And welcome to the Howard Eskin Show, as we are live on Saturday morning, a little later than normal on this Saturday. But welcome to the Howard Eskin Show. Special guest. He's always special. But before we get to him, just let me tell you, we will deal with the Eagles as we will with our guest. We will deal with the nonsense that's going on with the Sixers, and they're under investigation. They ought to take them all out in handcuffs for what they're doing to the fans, but we'll get to that. And a touching moment in sports, and we'll get to that later in the program. But he is with the NFL Network. He is a Philadelphia guy. He's a LaSalle graduate, and he's a superstar on the NFL Network. A guy I've known for a long time, and that would be Mike Garofolo. Mike, thanks and welcome to the program. Superstar, are you a superstar on the NFL Network? Am I right in that?
Okay. No. Perfect timing. No. Daddy's working still. I know.
Oh, that's all right. Bring the kid in. We'll put the kid on too.
All right, I'll be there in a second. I just started here. We just started. They don't usually come down here. We're at our shore house right now.
Okay.
And they don't like the basement down here, so I thought I was safe. Up north in our North Jersey house, we got a glass door office. They invade all the time down there, or up there. But down here, I'm usually safe. And we just started, and boom, right out of the gate.
That's all right.
Am I a superstar? I Rappaport all the time when he puts out information on social media about players. He'll call guys star, like star player or whatever. And I rip on him all the time. I'm like, that guy's not a star. There's probably 10 stars in the league total. You can't take the 100th ranked guy and call him a star. But when you call me a superstar, I think that's about accurate, genius. How about that?
Okay. All right. Philadelphia guy. And you know, every year, they call it the legal tampering. And they sign guys, legal tampering. It's a nonsense term. But
yeah.
Do you think it was more active, and we'll get to the Eagles in a second, was it more active this year, in your opinion, than in past, or is it always this kind of craziness and frenzy?
No, I think it was about right. I think it was there wasn't a lot of high-end guys. There wasn't a lot of, like, the top tier. Now, having said that, I mean, we did have big-name quarterbacks. Now, granted, they're at the tail end of their career. It's not like Aaron Rodgers in his prime, but we had some big-name quarterbacks. But I didn't think we had – only one guy got a 5-year deal, which is kind of wild. It was Will Fries, the guard. Outside of that, everybody was 3- and 4-year deals, because usually the 5-year deal, that's the guy that can command the big 3-year guarantee and then the 2 years tacked on the end of it as well. We didn't see a whole lot of that. And we heard coming in that it wasn't going to be a high-end free agency class. This free agency class wasn't great, that this was a year to look more towards the draft or sign your own guys. But there's always going to be action, because there's always going to be guys available. It's just when you look at it, we actually did on the show last night on the Insiders on NFL Network, an all free agency team, the highest paid guy at every position. And we were like, would this team make the playoffs? And I looked at it, I was like, it's actually a pretty good team. You know, there's always enough talent, and there's always enough storylines out there. The people love the football, the people love the football, Howard.
All right, so one of the players that signed for, a cornerback, a defensive back, so I don't confuse quarterback, it's cornerback,
yeah.
A defensive back. J.C. Horn gets $25 million. I mean, the NFL is getting out of control. It's sick. And they're not going to win. They're not. Where are they going? Where is his team going?
Well, you got to pay somebody. You got the minimum spend on the salary cap. You got to spend 90% of the salary cap over an X amount of years. So it's not like you can't spend, period. And they do like him. They do. I mean, when he's healthy, he's had some a foot thing in the past, but when he's healthy, they really like him. You got Sauce Gardner is going to come up soon, the cornerback there. He's going to make some astronomical money. And in a couple of years, who knows what Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean are going to wind up getting when you look at the cornerback position. I actually think that position's been behind a little bit. J.C. Horn's getting 25 as probably the highest paid cornerback, right? He's the highest paid cornerback.
Yeah.
Milton Williams got 26. You wouldn't put Milton Williams as one of the top defensive tackles, but he got $26 million a year to go up there to the Patriots. I think the cornerback position, and Sauce even posted something about this on social media the other day, saying corners get no respect or whatever. I actually kind of sort of agree with him, to be honest with you.
Well, but usually defensive and offensive linemen get the money, not guards on the offensive line, but usually the tackles. But they usually, because that's where you win football games. So, are you surprised that? I'm not surprised that Milton Williams got that money. I think it's too much, but you see it when a team wins a Super Bowl, as the Eagles obviously did.
Yeah.
You're going to lose guys, and they're going to get overpaid. I mean, Josh Sweat, defensive lineman, you're going to get over. That's not uncommon, is it?
Sweat got so much money. Now he was going to get paid, but he got more, I think, because the Cardinals were in on Milton Williams and missed on him. Gannon wanted Williams and didn't get him and had a big offer out to him. Well, now you've got this money that you allocated to improve your defensive front. Well, now we can reallocate it to another guy that we know and we feel comfortable with. So that's how Sweat got his payday there. For Williams, I saw somebody, comment, Howie Roseman, the rare mistake letting him go. You can't. I mean, he's got two more defensive tackles he's got to pay coming up in Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, plus all the money that he's already allocated elsewhere on the offensive line. The guy wasn't even a starter there. I mean, you could say the same thing about Jalen Moore was the offensive tackle for the 49ers. He was their backup. And when Trent Williams was hurt and they needed him to step in, he played well. And then he came up free, and the Chiefs are willing to pay him $15 million a year to be the left tackle there. You can't match that. It's just that's how free agency should work. A guy who's just so good and just doesn't fit in because you're so stacked in one place, and you go, well, we just can't pay him. He's got to go. A lot of times it works in regard to we need somebody. This guy's sort of a marginal guy, and we overpay him. Now, in Milton Williams' case, did he probably get more than I thought he should have gotten? Yeah, probably. But I think that was also a product of the Cowboys' defensive tackle, Osa Odigizua, taking a deal at 20 when he on the market would have gotten 24, and if he gotten tagged, he would have gotten 25. But he jumped at the chance to stay with the Cowboys. I thought he jumped a little too soon there. And that's what, by the way, that's what the Cowboys bank on is Jerry Jones thinks guys are going to take less to be a Cowboy, and sometimes it works, and now it's backfiring because all the guys that are leaving, Jordan Lewis, the cornerback, DeMarcus Lawrence out there in Seattle, are all now firing back at the fact that, this team tried to get us for a decade on team-friendly deals. I've had enough, and now all the drama's starting to come out.
Players want the money. I mean, you can say what you want, but they want the money. Now, in this week that we've had, are you surprised, or any of the guys maybe that you work with at the NFL Network, are you surprised with any player or players that went somewhere? We know the money's crazy, but that they went to a team and say, "Wow, I never expected him to go there." Are you surprised with any of the players?
No, I feel like a lot of them made sense, right? There was always a connection between the guy that the free agent, and maybe there was a you can always go down, and sometimes when I can't find it, that's when I get surprised. It's like not even his positional coach has a history with him, but we saw. I mean, Cooper Kupp went back to Washington last night by taking that job with the Seahawks. I mentioned Josh Sweat goes because he's got the connection with Jonathan Gannon. The Jaguars brought in a bunch of guys that had a connection either to a coaching staff or they were with the Rams. They had a tight end that came in because their general manager and their coach had connections to the Rams. So that's the way. That's the one thing. And then who was the guy? There was a double whammy. It was because a lot of times you'll see a guy get paid in free agency that used to absolutely destroy a team. Yeah. I know who it was. It was Mack Hollins, former Eagle, Mack Hollins. So Mack Hollins,
where did he sign?
He signed in New England, and it was the double whammy. It was Josh McDaniels had him with the Raiders and liked them. So there's the connection. And then the other thing is when you kill a team. So his best game ever was a 158-yard game with the Raiders. Josh McDaniels was his coach, and he played against Mike Vrabel. So it's the double whammy where you're like, okay, well that you can see where the interest was on that one. So there's always some kind of connection, Howard, when it comes to free agency and where guys end up.
All right, are you surprised with any of the coaches that didn't get fired? And there's one that you might be close to New York where you work and where you live, but how does Brian Dable stay on? Really, and are you surprised with him or anybody else?
That was probably the one that I thought, this one's got a shot and didn't happen. Because outside of that, everybody really hung on. And I mean, I can think of a couple where you go, well, maybe it was, like I think we're getting close to the end of the Mike Tomlin era with the Steelers, and I don't know what that means. I mean, that could be 2-3 years, but I think we're getting there. I don't think in 5 years Mike Tomlin's the head coach of the Steelers. How does it happen? I don't know. I think he's still coaching, by the way. I'm not saying he's going to retire,
No,
but I think we're just starting to feel that way. But it didn't surprise me that he came back there and that they threw their support behind him, because I know how that organization operates. With Dable, John Mara had turned these guys over one after the other. It was he fired Coughlin, Ben McAdoo, right into Pat Shermer, right into Joe Judge, right into Brian Dable. And that was the one thing that was working in his favor, was he didn't want to have to go through this again, number one. And number two, he was the coach of the year 2 years ago. And Mara had said that you don't go from being the coach of the year to having no clue in just a couple of years. So I thought that one really could have gone either way. Now, they didn't tell him before the end of the season that he was safe. And I believe that was a big mistake, because if he knew that he was definitely coming back, I don't think they beat the Colts. And when they beat the Colts in week 17 and they go from the first pick to the third pick, well, now they're not in control of their quarterback destiny. And John Mara was asked about this, said, we don't tank. Every time we put our team on the field, we're trying to win. But if he had known about it, if Daboll knew for sure he was coming back, I don't think they beat the Colts in that game, and I think they're picking one.
You know what? I'm not a big fan of Hard Knocks, because it exposes too many players sometimes in meetings. And probably the most embarrassing thing that I've ever seen on Hard Knocks was that idiot, Joe Shane, the general manager of the Giants, when he I think he's going to Chicago, talking about Saquon Barkley. And then Mara says, we can't lose. We can't lose Saquon Barkley. And then they lose him. And I don't think they were ever going to give him the money that he was going to get somewhere else. And I really think he was going to come to Philadelphia all the time anyway, because it's kind of home for him. So are you surprised that Joe Shane's back? And is that the most embarrassing moment in your mind on Hard Knocks?
First of all, I am incredibly disappointed that no team agreed to do Hard Knocks off season, and then we got to watch Belichick and do it, because that was NFL insider porn right there. Like that we were like locked into that, because you get to see, when it comes to Hard Knocks in season or training camp, there's not a whole lot that you like. They'll show all. We saw the game. We're there at the practices. Like, there's not a lot that you're showing that we don't see. That one was all behind the scenes. I mean, that was everything. And when you talked about, we hear Saquon's going to Chicago, Ian, Tom, and I are like, well, we never told him that. Who would have told him? So we're like huddling, like it was somebody that had bad information. Like, who do you think told him that? Right? Because that's where you're getting it through the media. I mean, that's how I think maybe the general public, if somebody asked me what doesn't the general public know about free agency, I would say how much we're involved in the spread of information. They're checking in with us. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but the agents they try to get a lot of people involved to jack up the money. When you see all these things, well, this guy is interested in this team. That's the agent feeding it to whichever one of the reporters he wants to feed it to. You know how that works. And
sometimes,
to try to drum up the price. Was he just trying to drum up the price for Saquon? And I think the Eagles knew what their number was by saying, Chicago's really interested. You think it could have been an agent?
No, I think it was bad information from a reporter. That's what I think.
Okay.
I think it was because a lot of times we're involved because it's like, hey, I'll keep you, if you give them the information, well, when it comes down, hey, make sure you let me know and give me the scoop. It's an information trade. That's how the whole thing works. Okay. So when he got that, I'm saying, well, I wonder what reporter would have told him that. So we're going through all that. So we're watching all that. But that was, the fact that was all on display, and every other NFL team, because as soon as that happened, it was like they were petrified that it was going to be like the Hard Knocks training camp, that they were going to make a team do it, because that's sort of and that basically, if they want to keep that going, they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to force a team to do it. The league is going to have to agree to it and say, okay, one team has to do it. It'll be all the criteria that we have for which team can't be forced to do it for training camp. But yeah, it was. I think the show definitely portrayed things in a certain light that I think they're better at what they do there than it looked. I'll put it to you that way. I think when it all came out, I was like, oh, this is this is. But I know, having dealt with them, like they're not buffoons over there. They got a general, they got a general idea for how to do things, and this made it seem like they had no idea. So I understand again why no team wanted to do it.
I can't believe the Eagles have dodged Hard Knocks because Nick Sirianni, and you know it, being from Philadelphia, you hear it and you're close enough. All the media does here, they used to, and now that he won a Super Bowl, they got to back off. They had him fired after 4 games. But he does things in meetings that I guess are different because he's so kind of engaging in I mean, just knowing the guy, and you got to know him, I'm sure, engaging in what he does, and people ripped him for the flower thing, and you grow like the roots of a flower, all that other things. It would be kind of engaging, but I don't know that the Eagles or anybody else or anybody with the organization wants to be on Hard Knocks for that reason. How did the Eagles dodge Hard Knocks?
Well, if I'm remembering the rules, if you made the playoffs the year before, you're exempt. And I don't know, I don't even know if these still apply. If you made the playoffs the year before, you're exempt. If you got a new coach, you're exempt. So they got a new coach, and then they made the playoffs with him. So it's like that keeps you out of it. And I don't know why they haven't done it before, because there's been years, I guess, where, well, I mean, with Andy, they made the playoffs every year, right? So that was pretty much exempting them every single year. There were years like they missed in 04 or no 04 they made the Super Bowl.
04 was a
05.
Yeah, 05.
I think 05 they missed the playoffs. Like, so to me, I would have jumped all over that and picked them in 06. But that's kind of how they've been exempt from it, is either it's been a new coach or they made the playoffs, and kind of keeps you out of the loop, I guess.
All right, let's go to the Eagles. Mekhi Becton, and I'm sure you saw it happened late last night because it was Los Angeles, signs with the Chargers. Now, I suspected when they traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson and they got a guard in return, I says, well, and I think I put it on social media. I know I put it on social media. I said, well, it looks like Becton's gone.
Yeah.
Are you surprised? And have you heard a number yet that he got with the Chargers? Because I'm sure he got a lot of money.
No, I was checking that again this morning to see if we got a number. Let me see if I can find it right now, actually.
Yeah, I mean, because he had to get, well over $20 million, I guess, because they probably project him
you think
sometime at some time they're going to project him to go to tackle, I would think. You're not going to pay a guard that kind of money, but I think they believe, and the Eagles thought, if they ever had an injury, they could move him out to the tackle spot if they had to. But I would think he got, otherwise, why didn't he sign with the Eagles? But again, the Eagles can't sign. You can't sign everybody, especially after you win a Super Bowl, because now teams overvalue what they're going to pay a player, because obviously with a team on that offensive line.
Oh, he got 10. He got 10. 2 for 20.
How much?
2 for 20. There you go. Is that out there yet? Did you just break news on your show, Howard?
Yeah, always we break news. We always break news.
Oh.
So he got 2 years.
I was just told that.
How much did he get? He only got $10 million a year, you're saying? No.
$10 million a year?
Is that all he got? Why didn't the Eagles sign him if it was only $10 million a year? If he only signed for 2 for 20, why did the Eagles not sign him? That's a question that I'm sure will come up at some time. All right.
Hold on a second. I gotta. Yeah. Now I'm in it.
It can't be 2 for 20.
It's 2 for 20.
Really? Is that all he got? Oh my gosh! And the Eagles probably didn't want to pay him. All right. So the Eagles lose a lot of players. They lost a lot of players on their defense. How surprised are you? How surprised are you that that they lost all those players, or not surprised at all?
No, I'm not surprised. I think it was expected that Sweat would be gone, that Williams would be gone. The biggest surprise was how much more Bond got than I thought he was going to get. And I heard they offered 15 at the combine and he turned it down. I thought he was going to come back to that deal and get it done at 15. He got 17. That I think was the biggest surprise, and that led them to now have to make harder decisions elsewhere. And the Kenyon Green one you talked about, the Texans took on 1.5 million of that deal. So they traded for him, and I was like, oh, cool, you got a guard for like 2.8 million. The Texans are paying 1.5 million of that. The Eagles only have to pay the 1.3 that's left over. So not only did you get a guy that is a first round talent that you feel you can I mean, that's how they're going to have to sort of do it right now. Because even if Green hits now, think about this. Now, if Green hits and has a reclamation year under Stoutland, he's now going to go get paid because he's like Becton, a first round talent. And then it's like, okay, boom, somebody tapped into it. It's there. It can be done. It just was a bad situation in Houston. Same thing as Becton. And so now you're going to, and now the way that Howie thinks, right? And this is going to be the same thing with Josh Uche too. If Uche hits, now he's going to go get paid. I'm going to get compensatory picks back. That's how it works. Like they're thinking 2 years ahead when they do some of these moves. So Becton goes and gets a big deal. That's going to help them with their compensatory pick. I mean, Becton, Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, who else left? Well, they cut Slay, so that doesn't count, I don't think.
No, right.
But when your guys go and sign big deals elsewhere, that helps you with your compensatory pick formula. So they should get decent picks next year because they didn't sign anybody from the outside to take away from that. So they should do well next year when it comes to compensatory picks. But it kind of went the way I thought it would.
I wonder if Becton, and I'm kind of blown away that the Eagles, but he's not going to play guard unless somebody gets hurt because you got Johnson on one side and Mailata on the other. But tackles get more money. So I thought eventually if he's a tackle, he's got to get money, but I guess they're just, maybe that's why they only did 2 years, just in case at some point he could.
Talking about Becton?
Yeah, he could move to tackle. I mean,
No,
tackles get more than that.
I see. There's a lot with Becton, though. I mean, I talked to him at the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I said to him I was asking about free agency. I said, hey, if you thought about it, he goes, I got bad anxiety. He said, if I start to think about the future, it's going to mess me up in the present. So he's got a lot of stuff that he's had to battle through. And I think he's a good kid. I really do. I think it was a bad situation with the Jets. It was a great situation with the Eagles. He felt loved with the Eagles after being beat down with the Jets is kind of the way that he felt. And now he's going to a place in the Chargers. I think I hope it's going to be a good situation for him. And, Harbaugh's not a grind you down kind of guy. He's going to expect a lot out of you. He's not a love you up. He's not like a Pete Carroll, like a love you up type of guy. I was thinking in my head, like, where could I see Becton go if he's leaving the Eagles? I'm like, okay, maybe like Pete Carroll would be a good spot. I think it's a decent spot for him, and I hope it works out well. He's a good kid.
All right. So out there on social media, which is not social and it's not media, in the reports, Dallas Goedert's going to be traded. Well, he's on the last year of a contract, so that's good speculation. Yeah. But, I mean, Howie talks about everybody. I'm telling you, he talks about everybody because I know he wants to try to get in the top 10. But you got to include players, and they can't draft all those players that they have in picks. So there'll be picks and there'll be players. So do you expect Dallas Goedert to be with the Eagles next year?
50-50. 50-50.
Yeah.
And I know there's been talks, there's been conversations, and Dallas, if you're watching, and I know he knows this, but they're not looking to dump you. They're not looking to get rid of you. It's again, paid a little bit more for Bond, got a lot of hard decisions to make across the roster. We're going to have to redo him if we want to keep him. We can get value now. He can play out the last year and then go sign elsewhere, and that could be part of the comp pick formula moving forward, that kind of thing. There's a lot of different ways that this could go. What's our contingency plan at tight end? They're going to draft a tight end at some point, obviously. That's going to be part of the whole equation there. But when you draft a tight end, is he ready to step into a big-time role? Like, you'd have to fill Goddard's role right away. So I think it really could go either way. And I don't, like, when I say that they're not trying to trade him, like they're not trying to dump him, if they can't find a trade partner, they're not going to cut him. Like, he's still going to be part of the roster here. It's just a question of, is there better value to move on from him and get something back? So I think it's 50-50 right now. I think it still could be 50-50 as we get closer to the draft. Now, I think if you get through the draft and he's still on the team, then I think he's locked in for the regular season this year. Now, what you don't want, because you remember the Zach Ertz situation, that got ugly in the last year.
Mm-hmm.
He and Howie kind of got into it a little bit. He was never comfortable. He was wearing the team stuff inside out at practice one day, if you remember. So you don't want that with Goddard in the last year. We'll see how it all shakes out. I'll call it 50-50.
All right, one more question about Dallas Goedert, who is really kind of an interesting guy, but in their offense, even though Saquon Barkley is kind of the big part of their offense, but you got two really good, very good wide receivers, but the tight end has always been so important as that escape in a pass. What are they, if they don't have Dallas Goedert, I don't know that a draft pick can fit in. You know, again, social media kind of floated that Zach Ertz would come back. I think you need Dallas Goedert for this offense. When you look at the Eagles' offense, don't you think they need that tight end type player for this offense?
So when I go to my sheets here in free agency and I go by position, you're seeing a lot of the top chunk is taken out in a lot of positions. Tight end's got some guys that are out there. Gerald Everett, Mercedes Lewis, he's like 41 years old. I don't know how he's still going. Mo Alley, Tyler Conklin's a guy that I like a lot. I am shocked that Tyler Conklin, who's with the Jets this past year, is still unsigned. That is a shocker to me. Hayden Hurst on the back end of his career, Nick Vannett, Jordan Akins, C.J. Uzama was there last year. All right, now I'm getting into the lower options here. But I think there are options out there. And it's not going to be the same production that you had with Dallas Goedert. But I think he's looking at it like there are guys out there. So I got to get rid of this tier up here, pay scale wise, and I got to come down here. And I know the returns are, but some of these tough decisions got to be made across. And then again, there's got to be a rookie factoring in here at some point. We'll see about the trade market as well. Potentially he could get some kind of return on that one as well. There are going to be a few options. I think there's hard decisions for the Eagles right now.
Right.
Josh Uche's deal was a 1-year, $1.9 million deal. That's like a nothing deal compared to everything else that's being signed. And they still put 4 void years on there to lower the cap hit this year. The cap hit would have been 1.9. They had to lower it to a fourth or a fifth of that, I guess, is the math. That's how tight things are right now. They just have to make some of these tough decisions right now. And if they do trade Goddard, that'll at least free up some money for them to make some other decisions.
All right, another guy that was put out in social media. Bryce have to look to trade Bryce up. Well, why wouldn't they? But who's going to take him? Even with he's got 2 years left on his contract.
I'll tell you exactly who would take him. I'll tell you who would take him right now. Jeff Ulbrich, who was his defensive coordinator with the Jets and is now down there with the Falcons. And maybe Robert Saleh would as well. Problem is, how much are you eating? How much are you going to say, we're going to pay on this contract just to get rid of him, just to get something in return? It could happen. The cap hit is astronomical. And I have heard that, like, all these things that I'm saying about how they're taking on these low cap hits and trying to really move some money around and free up, that could be what Howie has in mind. Because I heard, well, somebody said to me, they're looking to shed money in cap, and it's for Myles Garrett. I said, first of all, the Browns aren't trading Myles Garrett. Second of all, I'm not sure that that's the move that Howie and the Eagles are making. So I'm going through my head. I'm like, maybe all this cap room that they're freeing up because they know they're going to have to take this one on the chin with Bryce Huff. I wouldn't be honestly, like, at some point if they trade him and they take up a huge hit and they take on a bunch of money just to get him out of there and just to get something in return, would not be surprised at all, Howard. I'll be honest with you.
All right. Well, they got an edge rusher in Patrick Johnson, but again, another 1-year contract. Now they're just filling spots, and then obviously with the draft, they'll do some things, and there'll still be more things. And even afterwards, during camp or coming up to camp, teams cut after June 1st. I guess teams cut players. So there could be some guys either camp or right before camp. I don't know how those dates work, but there'll still be other guys. So with all that considered and where they are now, the Eagles win a Super Bowl. When you don't win a Super Bowl, only once in the last 31 years has the loser gone back to the Super Bowl the next year. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But when you win, for whatever reason, you have a better chance. Your outlook on the Eagles for this coming season?
Yeah, I believe that this team is going to hit the ground running and come out of the gates strong. That's usually what you see with a Super Bowl winner, by the way, is they'll start the season hot, and then at that point then it becomes its own season. It's almost like that momentum. You're right. The loser, for some reason, just has to deal with honestly, like last year when the Eagles had lost or 2 years ago, I guess, when they lost and they had fallen off at the end of the season, they mentioned to me, oh, it was the Super Bowl hangover, right? I was there for training camp this past year. I was like, what happened? It was a Super Bowl hangover. I go, baloney, you came out of the gate screaming. They go, but you don't understand. That hangs over you for the whole year. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll take and this year they had a different approach and they wound up winning the Super Bowl. So I guess, they're right about that. And from now on, I'm going to think about, like, when a team loses the Super Bowl, the way that hangs over you. And I don't know the psychological effects of it. I don't know the full thing. But you're right. And the one team that did go back was the Patriots that won it, if I'm not mistaken, right after the Eagles beat them in 17. They go back the next year. I think they're still strong in a lot of places. I think they're going to thrive off of what they did late last year, because that was the right time to be hot, the way that they were. And it's to me, and I thought about this all postseason because I'd covered them the whole year, and I just kept saying, they're going to win this game. They're going to win this game. They're going to win this game because they're playing, first of all, with the push on 3rd and 4th and 1. It's 1st and 9 when they get up there. It's not 1st and 10 for them. It's 1st and 9. They're running the ball effectively at 4 or 5 yards a clip, whatever, right? And you can't back them up behind the chains. So you can't get them a lot of times in the situation that you want to get them in, which is 2nd and 13, 2nd and 14. So I think that's still going to continue. You know what they're going to do. The runs that Saquon's popping are not exotic runs. They're regular zone scheme runs that he's just off and gone because the safety misunderstood the angle he was supposed to take. And that's the guy that really is supposed to be the one that, like, oh, okay, if he gets past the first year, this guy's got, and he's not. So I just think, like, there's no secret to what they're doing. They're just so good at it. And that's going to help them next year to continue to be strong out of the gate. I think it's still a really good team. I think they're still in a position of success. And I look forward to covering them.
Okay. The offensive line is so good. Once Saquon, and they get him to the second level. So once he gets to the second level, it's over, because in the open field, he really, you can take any angle you want. It's really pretty hard to get him. So the offensive line is part of it. And the Eagles didn't have any injuries last year, or very few injuries. And that is a big part of the season. Detroit got destroyed with all their injuries. And I don't know if they were good enough to get to the Super Bowl. But injuries were a big part of it, too.
We were looking forward to that game. We wanted to see that game, Eagles at Lions. We wanted to see how that would have gone, which is why I think they're one of the teams that they could play week 1. Let's go. Let's put them in there. Eagles, Lions, week 1. I believe I saw that. If I'm wrong, correct me on that.
Well, that's all right. I don't want to correct you because, you're such a superstar. You're such a stupid star. And, it's the dynamic of who they are. And I'll give you a little insight. Ken Hitchcock, do you remember him, the hockey coach?
Of course, yeah.
He coached with the Flyers for a while, but he won a Stanley Cup. And then he got to the finals and didn't win. I don't know how I got in the conversation with him when he was coaching. I said, why do you think this happens, that teams, once they lose in the championship, don't get back? He said, this was his response. He says, you work so hard and you put everything into it and you don't win. And it weighs on a guy mentally when they come into the next year. That was his philosophy. He's a coach, different sport, but it's the same mentality, that it's really difficult when you lose because of the approach. Oh, we put everything into it and we still didn't win a championship. So it's food for thought.
I loved Hitch. I love Hitch as a Flyers coach. And the one thing I remember about him, he was a big Civil War reenactor. Yes. Right. But that was part of his mentality was, when you run over that hill and what's over that hill as part of the infantry there, why do you do that? What makes you go over that hill? And he was trying to apply that to his coaching. I love Hitch. So he was big about the psychological when it comes to leading these guys. So I love that from you right there.
All right, tell me when you're on to let people know the NFL Network. Yeah, give the NFL Insiders, the shows you do, and all that.
Yeah, the Insiders is on Monday to Friday, 7 to 8 Eastern, and we're going to be consistent. I mean, this past week we were on nonstop, but now we're back into our rhythm. 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, me, Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, and Judy Batista, as well as our reporters that check in covering the various teams and areas around the league. So we have some fun doing that, bust each other's chops. You know how we do.
Well, with Rappaport, it's easy to bust his chops.
It's easy. It's like target practice.
He takes it so personally sometimes. It's funny.
He's pretty good.
Anyway, Mike Garofolo, NFL Network. Thanks, Mike. The people in Philadelphia still love you, even though you're probably closer to the Giants than you are to the Eagles as far as location, not as far as
location.
Okay, location, because the Giants suck. Let's face it.
But I get it on. So I go up there and they know I came from Philly. So all the Giant fans, when I'm covering the Giants, are killing me about an Eagles fan covering it. I'm like, I'm not a fan. Like you can't be when you're covering teams. It's impossible.
Right.
And I'm trying to, and I still get it to this day. And then I come down for a game covering the Eagles, and my buddy's friend has a box like right off of the press box. So around the third quarter, I'll go walk in and say hi to everybody for 5 minutes. And I go in there and your Giants, they suck. And I go, what do you mean my Giants? I don't know. Like you write about them or something. They're your Giants. I'm like, so I'm getting crap up there and I'm getting crap down here. That's great. That's awesome.
All right. Hey, listen. All right. Two things. Tell your wife I owe her dinner.
Look. You see it over there?
What's that?
That's a Phillies helmet up there. So go Phils. That's still exists.
Okay. I don't quite see it, but that's all right. I'll take your word for it. Your wife, dinner's on me one night, not for you, just for her. And tell the kids when you're down the shore there's probably ice cream places open. The ice cream's on me. All right, tell your kids the ice cream's on me, and I'll take.
You just say you walk in and you say Eskin, and they give you the free ice cream, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's just if it ain't for free, it ain't for me. I mean,
there you
come
go.
on
I'll try that out. But I'll bring my credit card just in case. How about that?
Just in case. Hey, thanks, Mike, and have a great weekend. And I'll see you soon.
You got it, genius.
Thanks.
Love you, pal.
It was a pleasure. It was fun. All right, Mike Garofolo of the NFL Network. It was fun. He really is a good guy, and at one time we kind of worked together back years ago. So, but good guy and does a lot of good work for the NFL Network. All right. We come back. I'm going to take a little tiny break. We can touch on the Eagles, or you can touch on the Eagles if you want. You know, people got to stop worrying. Things will happen or they won't happen, but they know what they're doing. You can't sign everybody. And you can join the program. We put out a link on our social media platforms where you can join the program. A very touching, emotional moment in sports, and I will touch on that. And Daryl Morey made the most asinine, stupid, ridiculous comment. I don't know if he can top all the other stupid, asinine comments that he makes, because he is, just beyond anything. But it's just like, what's he doing as a general manager? But we'll get into all that. And the NCAA tournament is starting. I also want to mention something else. I'm going to figure out something for you people. A lot of people watch on YouTube. They watch on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You subscribe to YouTube, and I'm going to find a way to take care of people in some kind of contest coming up. All right. We got a lot to talk about, and we'll be right back. All right, I told you it was going to be a very short break. The Eagles, I mean, people have to get over. They're going to, every Super Bowl team that win, every Super Bowl winning team, even the losing team, they turn over their roster. Not turnover, but they lose a lot. They lose 15, 18 players. It's an average that happens all the time with a Super Bowl winner. So they're going to lose players. Mekhi Becton, the Eagles obviously weren't going to pay him. That's why I'm surprised if Mike's numbers, Mike Garofolo's numbers are correct, where he only got $10 million a year, 2 years for $20 million. I'm surprised that now, again, he's only a guard, but I thought he'd get more because they would project him into a tackle, and maybe they don't need a tackle now, and maybe if he becomes tackle, he gets more money. But $10 million a year is not crazy money for an offensive lineman, but obviously the Eagles feel that they, with the trade with C.J. Gardner-Johnson getting an offensive lineman, they feel that they can plug that hole. All right, so if you want to comment on it, certainly we sent out the link. You can join the program. And I appreciate all the people. Lee Goldstein, excellent interview, thanks. Pat O'Connor says, this is your best podcast so far. Great job, Howard. We've had a lot of good ones, but Mike Garofolo was a really great guest. And then Ken Wisniewski, I speak my mind. Well, I've always spoken my mind, and I always will. It just somebody said they could have been able to afford Becton. Well, maybe they didn't want to. It's just, they were only able to sign Bond, as Bernie says. No, they're able to sign. They know what they're doing. But sometimes you gotta move on from a player, knowing that you can replace that player, or you think you have somebody that can replace that player. So again, if you want to comment on that, that would be great. Dallas Goedert, I still think they need him to come back here this year. Hey, if they can get rid of Bryce Huff, that was. Hey, listen, Howie Roseman has made some good decisions. Bryce Huff was a bad signing. Devin White didn't play a second with the Eagles. He was a bad signing, and they have bad signings, but they have good ones. But they won a Super Bowl, so the people they have and what they've done, and the draft, and the first two picks in the draft last year, in Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, are just, they're studs, and they're going to get money too. And you got to think about that down the line. All right, let me turn to the Sixers, which I would say most people don't care about the Sixers, but it's just, there's an internet story, and again, social media is not social, and it's not social, and it's not media. There's a story that the Sixers are done with Paul George. Well, yeah, I would be done too, but to get rid of a player with that contract, with 3 more years at, I think it's like $55 million a year, he's a guy that mails it in a lot of times. But who's going to take him? Who is going to take Paul George with 3 years left on his contract? Nobody. I don't think there's anybody as stupid and clueless. And Daryl Morey's not stupid. He's just a con man. So I said, as big a con man or as clueless as Daryl Morey is when it comes to NBA personnel. It's just like, who is going to take him? But this was the topper this week. On a podcast, it was on the DraftKings network. Daryl Morey admitted the fact that he does it. Well, the fact that he does it is one thing. The fact that he admits to using he uses AI to help with draft picks. They call it LLM, a large language model is what they call it. And the definition, a large language model is a specialized type of artificial intelligence, AI, that has been trained on vast amounts of text to understand existing content and generate original content. Daryl Morey in this podcast, and it's like mind-boggling that this guy thinks we're all just clueless. I mean, just clueless. It's just, and I see Angelo here. It says, first time in a long time I haven't watched one Sixers game. Why would you? Why would you? But listen to what he says, what Daryl Morey says on this podcast, admitting that he uses artificial intelligence. Here's Daryl Morey.
Making a decision, and insert your favorite Sixers decision here. Are you asking an LLM for their input?
So we two answers there. We absolutely use models as a vote in any decision, and how much of that decision depends on, how much the assumptions behind those models don't change, and their past success rate. So if you have a highly successful model for picking draft picks, and we think that the game, Evan hasn't changed the rules yet, and so the game isn't changed.
Evan Wash, who's in charge
yeah,
of
who's
the
in
league
charge
office
thank you.
of defeating you.
Yes. Then the models get a lot of weight in those decisions. It turns out LLMs do fairly well at prediction. They still are not beating human, like super forecasters they're called, like in Human Judgment Project talks about it. But they do add signal over just scouts and things like that. So we'll treat them almost like one scout. Now over time, if it's shown that they have a better track record than scouts, we might weight the LLMs or use multiple LLMs as one or two votes out of the process. So it turns out I'm building on a lot of things that Sentil knows, and that multi-model approaches can put you more on the decision frontier, the optimal decision frontier. And when I say that carefully, you get very similar accuracy with lower risk by using multi-model approaches. And so that's why we do that.
Oh my gosh. I am rarely speechless, but I am speechless. This guy is just, to have him run this team and try to, they're going to get a good draft pick because they're tanking. And by the way, they're under investigation. If I was the NBA, first, the reality is, if you're not trying to win, the NBA can force you to sell your franchise. Now, the people in Philadelphia would really love that if they forced them to sell the franchise. I think they got to lose a draft pick. It's just, there's clearly, Friday night, they have 8 guys that dressed and 9 guys, I think it was 9 guys that were inactive. It's embarrassing. Not one starter played in the game on Friday night against Indiana. Not one. You can't tell me they're all hurt to the point where they can't play. It's a joke. It is absolutely it's not a joke, it's a disgrace. The season ticket holders should have stormed the building, filed civil action suits against the team for giving them a product that is so it's below the G League. It's insulting, it's disgraceful, and you're spitting on your fans. You are really just spitting on your fans. The NBA, why did it take them so long to want to investigate this? But the fact that Daryl Morey admits he doesn't know personnel. He can't judge personnel. I understand you use the dynamics and you use numbers. And everybody did that to a point. But if you're good, it's called the eye test. And the eye test isn't always good, but there's people out there in front offices that are really good at it because they can look at a player, and AI can't tell you the heart of a player, the desire of a player. They can't tell you all that. It's mind-boggling that how they do this. Does anybody have any confidence whatsoever in the Sixers making a good pick? And they're obviously tanking to get in the top or the bottom 6, and the lottery is a joke. Somebody says, who does Daryl Morey have naked pictures of? How does that idiot have a job? That's Philly Fitter 420. But I'm not going to respond to it. I'm just going to read your comment. But you're right. How does he have a job? I'm just going to say, how does he have a job? It is mind-boggling. And how can you let him, Daryl Morey, rebuild this team? It's just, and he signs 2 contracts that 2 of the most ridiculous, awful contract signings probably in the history of the NBA. And there's been some bad ones, but it's awful. It is really awful. But it's just, I don't get it. I don't get it. But they're under investigation. What's going to happen? I don't know. Daryl Morey, even if they do get a top 6 pick, what's he going to do with it? I don't trust him for one little second that he can make the right pick. But nobody cares about the Sixers anymore. I have so many people, and they've told the season ticket holders, and I mentioned this on the last show, the last podcast, that they told their season ticket holders they're not raising prices for 2 years. Obviously, that means they don't think they're going to be good for 2 years. They're trying to get the people to hang on thinking, oh, in 2 years they're going to be better. I mean, it's just, Billy Bob Joe, Harris needs to sell the team, but we know that. It's a joke. The fish rots from the head down, Howard. Yeah, I know that. He is, and here he also says, Daryl Morey's the worst GM ever in Philly. He might be the worst. I mean, he and Scam Hinkie are 2 of the worst. But what's the NBA going to do? Because Adam Silver, the commissioner, is so soft. Well, we're investigating, but we didn't find any real. Yes, you did, but you can't tell whether a player's hurt or not hurt. But somebody's got to play. Somebody has got to play. All right, so that's the deal with the Sixers. It's just, but nobody really cares anymore, and that's the problem. The NCAA tournament, the selections are Sunday. Here's the problem with the NCAA. These conference tournaments are useless. They're useless. You might find a team that wins their conference tournament that had no chance at making the NCAA tournament. They make the NCAA, and they're going to be out in the first round. But all these conference tournaments are just for money. It's all about money anymore. Does anybody do it for the love of the sport and the energy of the sport? Conference tournaments are just for TV. You have games on that from conferences that nobody even cares about, but they put games on television because of money, and that really is part of the problem with the NCAA, the NIL, the transfer portal, and now conference tournaments. In the Philadelphia area, St. Joe's is the only team that has a chance to go to the NCAA, and they're going to play and they're actually favored in the championship game by 1.5 points. So we'll see whether they go, and give Billy Lang credit because he's got him, the coach of St. Joe's, he's got him in a position to try to get to the NCAA tournament. But it doesn't make any difference. We know who's going to make the NCAA tournament. And the SEC is going to have probably 12 teams that make the tournament because they probably pay more money in NIL money than anybody else. Whatever the case, it's just these conference tournaments are a waste of time. But we'll get to the NCAA tournament. So I just want to mention before there's another emotional moment in sports that I want to play for you. Wednesday on our podcast, Mark Lawrence, who was the handicapper I always had on the radio, and we're going to talk about it on Wednesday night, look at some of his dark horses, some of the good picks. We'll do that Wednesday night on our podcast just to let you know what we're going to do the guest Wednesday night. And we'll run over the whole thing and look for some dark horses and people that, or teams that really have a chance. All right. This week in sports, it's an emotional moment. It's emotional for me. It really was emotional. 21, 22 years ago, about 21 to 22 years ago, there's a 13-year-old that sang the national anthem at the Portland Trailblazers game, and she forgot the words. And who jumps in to save the day? And the story evolved again this week because 21 to 22 years later, she sang again. And who was there? The coach that helped her through the national anthem. Every time I watch this, I really feel for it. And this was on, it was on a couple of news programs, but ABC News played this, and I'm going to play it for you. And you can't but yeah, I get choked up when I watch this. Let's watch this. That happened. It happened 21, 22 years ago, and they revisited again this week.
Well, the national anthem and her nerves. 22 years later, the comeback. It was the moment seen by millions more than 2 decades ago.
Oh, say, can you see?
In 2003, a young singer, Natalie Gilbert, just 13, singing the national anthem on the Portland Trailblazers basketball court.
Proudly we hailed at the starlight stars.
Starting off strong, then the nerves, suddenly forgetting some of the lyrics.
Come on.
The team's coach, Maurice Cheeks, quickly stepping to her side to help her. That basketball coach soon coaching her.
Oh, the ramparts we watched,
Singing with her and then encouraging the crowd to sing too.
And the rockets red.
Natalie would go on to finish the anthem to cheers. She and the coach would never forget that moment. And now, 22 years later, she walked back onto that court last night, invited back by the team. And who was there? That proud coach, ready to cheer her on again. And just listen.
Oh, say, can you see?
Tonight, Natalie telling us she hopes everyone knows it's okay to make mistakes. It's all about how you recover and become stronger. A lesson for us all on that. Congratulations, Natalie.
You know, that was, I get choked up when I see it, and I remember when it happened. Maurice Cheeks is such a terrific human being. I'm glad to see he's still in coaching. He's with the Knicks, as was said there. What an emotional moment, and we're gonna end on that because I get choked. I get choked up every time. Every time I see it, I get choked up because it's those moments just happen at the time that they happen, and it's Maurice Cheeks is. I every time I see it, it's amazing. It really is. It really is amazing, and I really do get choked up when I see it. All right, again, people that subscribe to YouTube, I'm going to find a way to reward you with a giveaway, with something, and we'll do it coming up, but available on all the social platforms: Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Wednesday night, the night before the tournament really starts on Thursday, Mark Lawrence will join us to talk about the tournament, get some upsets that he sees happening. It's just it's going to be a really insightful show. Sorry, I'm a little choked up. But Mike Garofolo was terrific from the NFL Network, and I want to thank Mike. All right, everybody, if you're watching this live, have a great weekend. If you're not watching it live and you enjoyed it another time, I hope you had a great weekend or you're having a great weekend. But thank you for being a part of the Howard Eskin Show. And again, we'll see you on Wednesday night. You know, I put news out there when it happens. It's just, it's all part of what I do. Everybody, have a good one, and we will Talk to you soon. Thank you for being a part of it.